can only say I wish I had discovered this months earlier, because in it I realized how many mistakes I was making in trying to win back my wife and my children.
I learned so much about myself and about my marriage. I wish that I would have discovered it earlier.
Learning that you cannot control anything. You can only change yourself. You can only control yourself. So if you change yourself, you can influence others.
You learned a lot about yourself, you learned patience, and you learned how to communicate your feelings.
My favorite part of the course was the peace and hope that came as I went through it. Something that I didn't even get while I was going through therapy.
I feel like it has truly changed me as a person, a spouse, a mother.
Really taught me a lot about myself.
Marriage Helper has saved me from a lot of anxiety, from a lot of impatient behavior.
It really made you dig within inside yourself and think about all the things that you do that you're not thinking about.
I thought I had all the answers to my marriage and why it's not been working.
The less you push, the more the other person has to pull.
It does help with communication skills, not only with my spouse, but also through my career and my children.
I really enjoyed the 10-week course. I liked that everything was broken down into so many steps and that the workbook helped keep you on track. I learned so much.
It wasn't about playing games. All the other resources sort of wanted you to play hard to get or go out and find other people to make your partner jealous.
My favorite parts are the videos with the information. That is golden. It has helped me to become a better person and with the hope of getting back together.
The course itself, again, is based on statistics, knowledge, tried and true methods. They don't lie to you. They are sincere and care about the marriage, your marriage.
I really like that I have the support on here as well as the private Facebook group.
The Facebook group is fantastic. It is a blessing.
I enjoy the weekly encounters with the Marriage Helper and all the tips that come offline and on the virtual trainings.
The Marriage Helper course has been phenomenal. And I have to tell you that it has helped me both personally as well as in my marriage.
At the end of the day, he chose not to even show me the divorce papers. He took them with him and he chose to continue talking. So for the first time in a long time, I face the future of our marriage with hope.
I'm hoping for a reconciliation and praying for reconciliation. However, if for some reason, if it doesn't work out by the grace of God, at least I've bettered myself.
If anything works, this will.
You have to draw a line in the sand. You have to build some boundaries.
Maybe I'm not the right one for it.
I'm to a point where I don't want to try anymore.
You are hurting yourself. This is something we see regularly.
What is someone in your life fighting for? And how can you be there for them? We're going now to Kim from Arizona. Kim, how can we help you today?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, I have really bad cell service at my home, so
well, don't
I
move.
apologize if it gets choppy.
Where you are now
I'm
is
frozen.
perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been married 19 years, just celebrated 19 years in July. We went on a big family vacation over the summer, and about less than 2 months ago, about 5 weeks ago, I confronted my husband because he had some behavior that was suspicious. I suspected he was talking to another woman, and he immediately admitted that he was, and was very indifferent and cold in that moment, not surprised or embarrassed or, he wanted to be caught. He said that at that point he had only been talking to this woman for about 2 weeks. It's a coworker. And now that I understand limerence, I think he went in, I don't know if you can go into a limerence state that fast. But he clearly made it very clear immediately that he can't have any physical contact with me. And so for now, 5 weeks or so, we're just roommates. We are sleeping in the same room. He's kind, he's polite, respectful to me and the kids. You would never know anything's changed. My question for you is, I don't know my role. I'm being very smart about my contact. I wasn't in the beginning, but I am now. I'm ready to ride out this storm while he goes through this process of limerence and in the valley. But I don't know, do I blatantly ignore when like yesterday, he said, I'm going to be gone for a few hours, which means he's going to be with this other woman. He'll just leave. And when he comes back, we just pretend like nothing happened. Does that make me a doormat? Do I make plans as a family? I don't know how much to include him. He's completely indifferent towards me besides surface talk.
He's completely indifferent towards you besides what? What was the last thing you said?
Small talk. Like we can have small
Gotcha.
talk,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like he's initiating a lot of small talk. But I've been on a health journey for myself since about May and getting fit. I'm glad I started that before this all came about. So I already had that part of my pie going. But I get up every day and walk. He was volunteering to come walk with me, but he's trying to get himself fit for this other woman. I'm not trying to make any deep conversation with him anymore. I don't want to appear that I'm pulling back and indifferent now in return. I'm trying to give him space, but I don't want that to be interpreted that I don't care, or I just don't know my role. He's made it very clear he wants to leave and start over.
Why hasn't he left?
Even if it doesn't work. That's a good question. We can't afford for him to leave. He can't afford to leave. But he has not used the word divorce. He's totally dodging the word. But he says, I know that this woke me up. Meaning this person made me realize how miserable I am here, and I don't see any possibility of it being different. After 19 years, no, it's not going to be different. And I want to start over. Well, he's not thinking logically. He's really starting over. Isn't that cut and dry, right? We know that.
Yeah. Hey, Kim, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How are you doing right now? So are you, physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, do you feel like you're doing well, or are you falling apart? You sound like you're being really strong. So I'm just trying to get a gauge on how you're handling this whole situation.
Well, I am a person of faith. I jumped deep into my seeking God spiritually, for his help and strength. And that's that whole piece that passes all understanding. I have really done well. If you had told me that this was coming and I'd respond this way, I would not have believed you. I have my moments because I'm human. I'm crushed. I'm sad that he's not opening up and talking, but having understanding now that I've come to your site, I have a lot of hope. I feel like I have enough hope for both of us that the storm will pass. And overall, I'm doing really, really good. I am.
So what would you do differently at this point?
Differently, like what do you mean?
So like
differently from or differently present.
So what are you looking, because the question that you were asking at the beginning was, I feel like I'm being a doormat. I don't know if I should say something or if I should do things differently, because you didn't say these exact words. I can't remember the ones you said, but there was a spirit of you feel like you're condoning if you're not saying anything against it. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, a little bit. I know if I bring it up, that's going to be a push behavior. I just right now feel a little bit like if I just pretend like nothing's going on, is that enabling him, and is it could he perceive me as, would he lose respect for me because I'm just allowing this to go on? And like, I know it's not my job to issue consequences, but
I mean, this is it's a hard conversation to have in 6 minutes, because there's just so much going on that if you were working with a coach, that the coach would be asking you deeper questions, getting more of the knowledge behind it. Jim can speak to that much better than I can, as he is over all of our coaches. But I mean, and not knowing your full situation, I understand your question. And do we at Marriage Helper believe that you should have the ability to set boundaries and what we call stops and things like that? And do we believe that you should not be a doormat? The answer is yes. But every situation is different.
He's not being rude. He's not being disrespectful.
Right.
And he's told me many times he's been very kind. Like he's very surprised at my response. And he actually, when he admitted to the affair, he said, I thought you would be relieved. He really thought that I was in the same place as him, as, being really not into the marriage. We're still in the same bedroom. We're still, in the beginning, I was trying to be very cordial and very like serving him and doing a lot of domestic stuff to bless him and extend grace. And now I feel like I should probably pull back, but I don't want to be blatantly obvious that I'm just like, you're on your own. I just very gray how to cohabitate when he is clearly made up his mind. However, we are supposed to be coming to the workshop in November.
Oh, that's good.
Well, good.
I just think now, I think I said to him, if you could come to this and you make an educated decision, you still want to leave, I will release you. Now I'm like, he's just going to think, because he went out on a walk to talk to the other woman right after I said that to him, and he's probably like, we just got to make it through till November, and then she'll release me.
Well, you don't know what he's thinking, so I would encourage you to not read too much into those things right now. Jim, what would you have to say here?
Well, thank you for your stand. I will tell you that it's refreshing to hear your attitude towards it, and I know you have good and bad days, and I'm sorry about that. I will tell you this: it's a pretty common question that occurs of people wonder if they're doing it. Well, actually, more of they feel like, and many times the way we feel is based on our perspective. So if you can reframe things, sometimes that can be a little more helpful. In other words, you're still in control of every decision you make. So is someone using you if you choose to allow them to have some amount of grace in there? Well, not really. You're offering grace. So you could look at right now that you're offering towards your husband some grace, some latitude for him to discover where he is. Now, does that mean enabling? Well, I don't think so at all. I think if you were giving him a ride to the other woman's house or making phone calls and setting appointments up between him and the other woman, that would be enabling. Do you hear what I'm saying? But not being a lot of times people, and I'm not saying this is you, but with my experience with clients in the past, a lot of times the way they process enabling is they're not fighting them every day on it. In other words, I disagree with this. You're doing wrong. That's not right. You're hurting me. You're hurting the kids. And then they're like, well, if I'm quiet, am I enabling him? Well, no, you're just not punching him in the gut every time he makes a bad decision. So you can reframe that. And if you think logically about it, which is not easy in this time because most of this is emotional, if you think logically about it, he didn't stop yesterday. If you don't tell him you don't want him to be in an affair, he's not going to go, oh, I wonder if she changed her mind. He knows that about you, right?
Right.
And so, like I said, unless you're
Right.
doing something that helps him to do it, I don't call that enabling. If I'm giving you something, in other words, if I let you, and let me bring it to something that's not relationship. If I go out to eat with you 2 or 3 times a week and I choose to pay, and my friend walks up and says, man, that person's just using you. I'm like, no, they're not, because I choose to do that. You can't use me if I'm
Okay.
choosing to do that. So see, this is your response in mercy and grace to give him something that he may not even deserve right now. And I think that's a very powerful place
And
to
that's
be.
true. The 5 love languages that people talk about, and mine is acts of service. So it comes natural for me. Now that's not his love language, but I recently stopped working, and so now I'm home, and I love to be domestic and serve my family. And so I've been doing a lot to serve him, and it's truly out of joy. And I see him with God's eyes, and I just love him unconditionally.
That's good.
But I don't want to do so much that it could be, maybe a push. Like
Well,
I'm
I don't know that
sucking up
those
to
things
him.
become pushes. I think we spend too much time worrying about what we're doing, and some of the times it's just real obvious. Okay, so the encouragement I would offer you there is don't do anything you're not able to continue. I had a client one time say, "I'm going to write my husband a love note every day for the rest of our life," and I said, "Girl, you might want to pause a minute. That's 365 just in the first year. I can't think of that many good things to say about anybody." So you might want to make sure you don't do things you can't continue. Don't try to pay back for what you didn't do in the past. Start now doing what adds value, what brings love, like, and respect, and do that consistently, and do it without the expectation of return or reciprocation,
That's the big
especially at
part.
this point. And I think that's the way you want to do it. And then we just pray that, hey, no matter what his decision is right now, we're hoping as we get to the workshop that he has some answers to even what's going on in his own mind. And so I'm looking forward to you guys being here in November.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kim.
It's been interesting. I feel like he grew a second head. I don't recognize him.
Yeah, well,
I'm
I've
pretty
seen
normal.
that a bunch of times.
But thank you for
No problem. Thank you,
thank
Kim.
you for your help.
Thank
care.
you.
And we're going to go to Kay. I think it's Janina. Let's see if I'm pronouncing that correct. Is it Janina? Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're in Michigan, I see.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how may I help you today, Janina?
Well, my husband came to me back in July and told me that he was wanting a divorce, and he has been fighting me on it for a while now.
What does that mean, fighting
He
you?
tells me that I don't want the divorce.
Okay.
I've been trying my pies and everything, and I've done fairly well in my opinion.
Okay.
He finally tells me that a lot of the problem is like nagging, I guess, per se. Within the last couple of years, he said he's been falling out of love with me. And I'm trying to give that. I give him space and everything else and what he needs.
Okay.
And whatnot.
Did you hear this kind of complaint from him before he decided he wanted a divorce? For example, in the last couple of years, has he said anything about you nagging or anything else? Or are these things that are kind of coming out of the blue now that he tells you he wants a divorce?
It was kind of off and on. He travels for work, and that has been within the last couple of years. And I feel like a lot of it is the thing that he got his freedom and he enjoys it.
Freedom meaning what?
And meaning he can go have fun. He goes all over the place around the states. He travels everywhere. He ventures around and he does everything by himself without the wife or anything like that.
So I'm hearing you say that you don't
2
think it's
kids.
because of your nagging. I'm hearing you say you think it's because of the fact that he doesn't want to be married. Is that what you're thinking?
Right.
Okay.
And there's no other woman. He says they're not, so I trust that there's not.
Why? Why do you trust that? If he says no other woman, why do you
Because
trust
he's never
that?
done that. We've been together. He's never done that to me. We've been together 17 years.
Hmm. And so you think that's an
I
impossibility
try
for
to.
him?
I think it's a possibility, but I don't think he would ever go to that extreme.
Okay, so what is it that's
He
pulling
tells
him
me
then?
that he doesn't.
You see, when we look at a marriage, we say
I
either a
don't
person's
know.
being pushed out, and if you're nagging a lot, if you really were doing that, then we can understand the push. But what I'm hearing you say is you don't think you did that much. And am I just misunderstanding what you're saying?
I think I did do it for quite a while because I missed him. He travels at least 2 weeks out of a month.
Okay.
So I missed him, and so that was a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he tells me now he doesn't want to be tied down to anybody. He wants to be a single father and just do what he wants, come and go as he pleases.
Okay.
And I'm so lost and confused.
Mm-hmm. I can understand.
And I don't know. He will be, he'll have days where he's really nice and it's like he's kind of coming back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing I hear the next day is we are getting a divorce. We are separated.
Mm-hmm.
And he sleeps in a different room now.
Mm-hmm.
He claims that we have every other weekend with the kids. I don't understand how you can pull that one off, but we live under the same roof.
So
it's just he's got in his mind he wants a divorce, and there's no turning him back.
Okay, and he is planning to live someplace else, I assume, when he divorces, or still live with you?
Well, that's where it gets confusing. He wants to live in the same house and raise our kids together. We have an 8 and 10-year-old.
But he wants to be divorced.
And that's where I'm right.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that you've asked him to explain that, and when you do, what does he say?
He doesn't really explain much. He just says he wants to get along for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, there's a helicopter coming over my house.
Okay. Well, then I guess I'm having some confusion here, and sure, I can understand your confusion. I'm confused as well, where it's like, well, why does he want to live there and be divorced? What is it that he gains by being divorced? Has he ever mentioned that at all?
That's not a freedom. Apparently, he claims that our marriage certificate is just a piece of paper that holds us together.
Uh-huh. And so, if he's going to live at the same house with you, still be traveling 2 weeks out of the month, those kinds of things, how is that any different than being married and not being married? That's what I'm confused with. Something about this just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Are you guys religious people by any chance?
I am. He's kind of on the fence over it.
Okay. Was he before? Was he earlier a religious person?
Yeah.
And when did that change?
Was he this person?
Yeah, I'm saying, when did his...
He's always been that way.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm happy for you that you're doing the things you should be doing, which, you're working on your whys. And for those people that don't, that just tune in and don't understand that, that means that Janina's becoming the best she can be physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. That's what the PIES stands for. And so in this particular situation where he's dead set on divorce, you say you're fighting him. I'm assuming that you have an attorney. Is that correct?
I do not. No, I've kind of been letting it go with the flow, basically, because he says he's filing, and then he hasn't filed in a month after he told me he was filing.
Okay. Now, I guess that's
so
a good thing.
I don't...
Does he have an attorney, as far as you know?
That's how I see it.
Does he have an attorney?
No.
Okay. So far, it's just
he
him...
wants to do this together.
Okay.
Huh?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted. He's wanting you to just walk down somewhere and sign a piece of paper? Is that basically what it is?
Yeah. Yeah, he wants to do this just however we feel fit that it's going to be okay to make us through a divorce. And I'm just not okay with that. My husband, I feel like I've been a very good wife and I'm a very good mom. I moved from Tennessee to Michigan to be with him because he had left me after 1 year of marriage. He moved down to Tennessee. We got married. And a year later, he moved and left me and come up here. So I told him that I would move to Michigan and we would work it out and whatnot. We did. Here it is 15 years later, and he's pulling the same thing, and I almost feel like it's a midlife crisis type thing. I mean, he has nothing behind this. He's a firefighter, so I helped him through all of that. He's a fire instructor. I helped him through that. We're both EMS. I helped him through that. You know, everything that we have done, I have put myself on the back burner for him and my kids, which I don't regret that whatsoever. But I feel like this is the thank you that I'm getting out of.
Yeah, it's definitely not fair, is it? I can understand that. I mean, you sacrificed quite a bit, and it's certainly not fair that he's doing this. So it's kind of an unusual situation you're describing here. But here's what I'm going to summarize what I've heard you say: that you still love this man, you want the marriage to continue, that you're not willingly going to go along with this divorce. If indeed he takes the next step, which means he would have to see an attorney. If indeed he takes the next step, then you've got some decisions, some hard decisions you'll have to make. The first thing I would recommend is if he does see an attorney, that you do as well, so that you and the kids are protected. But the decisions you'll have to be making, which are going to be kind of tough, will be, well, am I really going to let him live here and be divorced? Am I going to make that decision that I will allow that or not? And of course, you have to decide that at some point. Okay. Then,
no.
When he says, I'm going to be a single father and that gives me freedom, I don't think he has a grasp of what being a single father is, because there's still responsibilities.
Well, I've told him, I said, who is a single parent when you're gone 2 weeks out of the month? It's me, and it is not easy.
Exactly. Well,
so how you think you can handle it, I don't know.
Well, since he's identified only one thing that you've told me about, which is the nagging, and I'm assuming that because you understand that you have stopped doing that. Is that correct? Good.
So I have no choice. He doesn't talk to me.
Okay. I can see that would give you no choice. At least you still got a sense of humor there, Jania. That's a good thing. A sense of humor is a good thing. And you're working on the past, becoming the best you can be. Right now, until he makes some kind of a move one way or the other, I don't know anything else you can do. There's no magic phrase, there's no magic action that will suddenly make him go, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? But if you consistently do what you're doing now, which is removing the negative, which you've done, even if he's the one who's made it happen, and creating the positives as much as you can, what we're hoping for is there's not some pull out there that you don't know about. Okay, something that's pulling him away other than the concept of being free. Now, that in and of itself is a pretty big pull, particularly in our society, because I'm sure he's surrounded by guys, and maybe even gals, but he's surrounded by guys saying, man, you need to be free. You're young. You can do all these other things. But these people are chasing a fantasy. When you say midlife crisis, I don't actually think those exist per se, but people do wind up often chasing fantasies like, this is what life will be like. One thing you have going for you is that because he has not yet pursued the divorce, he is in a way already kind of living a little bit of that fantasy because he's gone a couple of weeks out of the month, those kinds of things. And probably because it's still relatively early into that, he's probably having fun, quote, end quote, okay? But at some point, that begins to deteriorate. At some point, it begins to be like, this is pretty empty. And so my recommendation is that you keep doing what you're doing now. And if you can hang on long enough, because, you have decisions you make about your life as well. If you can hang on long enough until he begins to realize that fantasy he's chasing is not what he thinks it's going to be, then there's a good possibility that this can be put back together. But it's going to be determined by if he decides to pull the plug and sees an attorney, that'll be a factor. Or you, if you finally just say, I can't live like that, that'll be the other factor. But right now, I think you're doing all the right things, my friend. I wish there was a magic button, but there's not. But I think you're doing all the right things. I'm impressed how strong you are.
Well, and then he tells me he's not attracted to me anymore.
Yeah. Well,
but yet he still wants to do that stuff. And it's like, do I keep doing that or no?
Well, I'm going to recommend that you go, let's see, I'm going to look to our producer. Jesse, did I not do a video on that recently? On making love with somebody in a situation where you're married?
There's making love while separated?
Yeah, making love while separated. It's the same principle. I'm asking our producer, and that's already up on YouTube, right? Yeah. So what I'm going to recommend, Jenny, is this to you and anybody else with a question like that. Go to our YouTube channel. You go to youtube.com/marriagehelper. It's all big long, one long word. If you subscribe, then you can see and it's free. You can see all the videos we've done. Look for the one that I've done in the last few weeks about making love while separated. Now, you're not technically separated, but it's the same principle. And because I've got to move on to other callers here, I'm going to ask, if you will, go watch that video to find the answer to that. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Janina.
Okay.
Stay strong,
Okay.
my friend. I'm really impressed with her. I think that's a very, very strong young lady there.
We are going to stay in the UK, and we're going to go to Sim. Sim, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
Hi,
Kimberly.
Sim. Hi, great to talk to you. Where are you from in the UK, if you don't mind me asking?
Actually, I was listening to your other caller from the UK. It's not far from Wales. I'm in Bristol, the southwest of England.
Look at that. So cool. So cool. How can we help you today, Sim?
Yeah. Yeah. My husband has walked out on me about just over 2 months ago. We've been married 21 years, and he's been having an affair with the same woman for last 4 years, on and off. Came back, went back to her, came back 3 or 4 times. And then last summer, we went to marriage counselling, and then after that, he told me and our daughter that he has finished with her. He's promised to make the marriage work, love us both, and want to make it work. And then this summer, he said he doesn't love me anymore. He can't get her out of his head, and gone back to her. But since then, I found out he actually went back. He got in touch with her 2 months after he said he came back to make the marriage work. And then for the last 6 months of this beginning of this year, he knew he was leaving us. But because our daughter was doing a big exam at school, he kept it going with us. And then as soon as she finished the exam, he said he was leaving. So we are both heartbroken. I still love him very much. It was a shock because it was me making the marriage work, and he wasn't. So I've been listening to lots and lots of your videos on YouTube, and I hear this word limerence a lot. And I just wondered, is he in limerence? Can he be in limerence after 4 years knowing this lady?
It's possible,
So,
yes.
you know.
Do you know how they came in contact with each other? Where did this originate?
He is a pilot for an airline. He goes away a lot, and he met, and she was working in Hong Kong, and he met her in Hong Kong. So they only really saw each other for the first 15 months. I didn't know about it. So he only saw her when he was in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And then she moved back to the United Kingdom. So, but now he hasn't got really a base. She lives in Ireland, so he stays with her whenever he can. He goes to work, and when he comes back to the UK, he stays with a friend because he wants to see his dad, who's elderly and he's got Alzheimer's.
So his interaction with her is intermittent. He's not with her all the time, is what you're telling me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Could that be limerence? And the answer is yes. Two of the things that characterize limerence, I mean, there are several things that characterize limerence, but two of the major things. One is a desire for reciprocity. In other words, I feel this intense emotion toward you. I crave you feeling the same emotion toward me. And then as a direct result of that, another major thing in limerence is a lot of obsessive thinking about the other person, particularly daydreaming about how things will be at some point. Now, when a person in limerence has limited access to the LO, the limerent object, then can it go longer? And the answer is yes, it really can. Interestingly, it also can go much shorter. So it's kind of one of these things where it's just kind of dependent upon the person. And so, yes, that can absolutely lengthen it without doubt. And the fact that they're not together, you see, limerence typically ends in one of three ways. Either they finally get together, And when they do, all of the fear of that they were not going to get together, all that craving for reciprocity, etc., actually begins to subside, which makes the limerence begin to go away. The second way is if the other person does not reciprocate. If they don't reciprocate, finally this limerence on this part will go away. And the third is if you have a person that just goes from one person to the next, which does not sound like your husband. So I'm guessing, based on what you're telling me, that it is limerence. And I'm guessing that it's gone this long because of their not being able to be around each other much. Just like all limerence, at some point it will end. Obviously, I cannot predict the date. I do, and you probably don't like this, but I do, is the fact that at least he was there to help your daughter out. I know that might feel like subterfuge, it might feel like hypocrisy, but what it tells me is that somewhere inside this guy, there's still a great desire to do the right thing for his children. And if he has that kind of moral compass still inside him, that's likely to turn out to be a very good thing at some point. Now, I guess in all of that, I'm so sorry, Sim, I forgot what the specific question was. I talked so much in rambling, I didn't get the specific question.
It's just, I don't know, to give up on it and move on because it's been 4 years, the pain, the hurt. Or, I mean, I the thought of never seeing, not having him around, it's painful. I mean, him and our daughter, they adore each other, but our daughter is pretty angry at the moment, so she doesn't want to contact him.
Right.
He's constantly contacting her, but she hasn't replied any of these messages. And I hear all about these no contact will make him come back. So I have tried a bit of no contact. I know there's also, you mentioned about smart contact as well, but
we don't
so hard.
We don't recommend no contact, actually. We don't have time to explain that right now, but we do not recommend no contact. But here's something I will suggest to you. Is he a commercial pilot?
Yes.
Okay, which means that he probably has access to very low cost or maybe even free travel here to the United States. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If you're going to make up your mind, about whether you want to continue to try to put this together or not, which is certainly your choice. The fact that even though you live in England, if he would agree, and this is something your daughter potentially could arrange, say to him, okay, here's something I'm going to ask of you, Dad. You want to have a relationship with me? Here's what I'm going to ask of you. You take Mom, you fly to America, you go through those 3-day intensive workshops that they do at Marriage Helper so that you and Mom can decide what it is you really want to do. Now, for some people that might be cost prohibitive when they're coming from other countries, although every one of our workshops, we have people from other countries. We have people from England, from Germany, from Beijing, from Australia, Hong Kong. In your case, it would seem that probably you could come for little or no money flight-wise. So my suggestion, you do what you think is best. And if you want to end this, you certainly have the right to do so. But for your sake and his sake, and your daughter probably has the leverage to make this happen, to ask him if he would just come for the 3 days so each of you can make up your mind what you choose to do. Kimberly, you think that's a good suggestion?
I think it's a perfect suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah, I might not have that choice though. When he left, he said he doesn't love me and he loves this lady. So I don't know how we can make him do any of that. I know time probably will tell.
Sim, that's something that we hear people say all of the time to us. I mean, that is 90% of people that call us at Marriage Helper, it's that exact situation. So what I would encourage you to do is give us a call here at our office at 866-903-0990 and get with a client relations rep, and they can help you specifically with, here's how you can approach a spouse that you feel like wants absolutely nothing to do with making the marriage work or anything like that. And they would be able to help you much more in depth than we have the ability to here. Whether it's the workshop or not, I mean, there's other things that we offer that could help as well. But we are here for you, whatever decision you do choose to make going forward. But encourage you to make sure that you've tried everything you can before you do give up.
Yeah, and don't be discouraged by him saying that he loves her and not you, because probably 8 out of 10 couples walk into our workshop, there's one spouse saying, I have no intention for this marriage to be saved, and there's still ways to get them to come. And not manipulate. We certainly don't believe in manipulation, which is why we don't believe in that no contact thing. In our estimation, that's manipulative. But we've been doing this particular workshop for 20 years, 2 decades, and our success record in helping couples actually work things out. Now, it's not our success record, their success record. 3 out of 4 couples that come through actually turn it around and save the marriage, even though probably at least 7, if not 8 of every 10 couples, one of them does not want to be there.
That's right. So our first caller is going to be Anna from Florida, who has a question about her husband possibly being in limerence. Anna, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
How may we help you today,
Yes, I
Anna?
can hear you. Yes, just a quick backstory. My husband began an affair late July, and, just listening to podcasts and getting the information about limerence, and it just seems like that totally fits him because he's just totally enraptured with this person, and this person can do no wrong. But what's different maybe in my situation is I've never experienced the vilification. He's never said mean things to me. He still says, I love you so very much. I just don't understand why this person has this hold on me. Please wait. Let me figure this out. So it makes me wonder, is he truly limerent? Is it just...
Okay, what happened, Kimberly?
Like I said, he just does not vilify me at all, or
Well, that's a good thing.
Loves me very deeply.
That's a good thing, Adam. Understand that limerence, when we in the social sciences measure different kinds of love. For example, Sternberg, when he talks about love between like a husband and a wife, he can measure 8 different kinds of love. And so when we talk about limerence, in what we say is this is a kind of emotion, because it comes under the category of love, we'll call it love. But this is emotion that we can actually identify by certain criteria. Now, just as in medical science, in the social sciences, it's not always consistent. What I mean by that is this. There's some differences with different people. So if you had a particular disease, for example, you might have 8 of the 10 most common characteristics or 7 of the 10 most common characteristics and may not have the other 2 or 3. The same thing will be true when it comes to limerence. What we look for and the real identifying I'm hearing some noise that's kind of throwing me here. Is that our system? Okay, we don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I get distracted easily. I'm 142 years old, and anything distracts me. So I apologize. The primary thing we look for in limerence is an uncontrollable emotion. In other words, when he says, I don't know why I feel, but I have this strong compulsion toward the other person, that's the key identifier because it becomes obsessive. So one of the characteristics of limerence is the fact of obsessive desire for reciprocation from the other person. I want him or her to feel as intensely about me as I feel toward that person. Also, sometimes, and almost always this one involves, would be obsessive thinking. In other words, he tends to think about her a lot. So the things like vilification and those kinds of things, typically if they happen in what I call phase 2, but they don't always happen then. The fact that he's not vilifying you is actually a good sign. That's a good thing. Because typically that part happens when a person starts rationalizing ending this marriage to go be with the LO, the limered object. And since he's telling you that he still loves you, he just can't understand this overpowering emotion he has toward this other person, means that in all likelihood, there's nothing going on inside of his head that's trying to justify leaving you, which is typically when the rewriting history occurs, typically when the vilification occurs. So what you're describing sounds to me as if it is limerence, but it sounds like you've got the best version of it in the sense that he still loves you and he's not doing all these terrible things. So it's not good, okay? I know that you don't want him to feel those things, but from the way we look at it,
He's living with her now, like for the last month, but
Okay.
still calling me daily, telling me he loves me, things like that.
so he's obviously torn tremendously. Okay, what do you do when he calls you and tells you that he loves you?
I just try to say, I try to use smart contacts, and I try not to contact him, and and just try to say, I understand that you're having a hard time. I still love you too. I understand this is difficult. I try to just be understanding.
Has there been any kind of a contacting of attorneys by him, you or anybody?
No, he has never, I think he's told his affair partner that he has asked for a divorce, but he's never asked me for a divorce.
Okay. And when it comes to the finances, is he still giving you all the money that you need?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So in a sense, you're what we would call in the valley, or at least he is what we would call in the valley. In the valley is when he has a relationship with both the spouse and the affair partner and has no real motivation to change that right now, because things are getting along with you, at least to some degree, and they're getting along with her, at least to some degree. And that's what we call the valley. We typically recommend, are you familiar with our information on the valley at all?
Yes, I've been reading it.
Okay. Well,
and listening to the podcast, yes.
All right, then I don't need to go through all of that for you here again. For those others who are listening, you can find those podcasts where we talk about the valley and what do you do in the valley. So to answer your question, and I'm sorry I went the long way around for it, yes, it sounds as if he's in limerence. I surely hope that somehow he comes to the realization that he really needs to work things out with you. And it sounds as if he's still torn. That's a good thing. But at some point, he's going to probably go one direction or the other. So be prepared when that happens. Are you by any chance a part of our online course?
Yes.
Good. Then we're about to start about mid-month of January. We're going to start adding one new video a week to that. And so I recommend that you stay in those videos, follow what it says there, pay attention. And if you get to a situation where you can't really decide what to do one way or the other, then you might want to call us and talk to one of our coaches so a coach can help you think some things through. But it sounds to me like you're an awfully strong human being, Anna. Are you as strong as you appear to be?
Just taking it day by day.
Day by day. Well, it sounds to me like you're doing amazingly well at it. And I surely hope and pray that this works out well. I really do. Anything else we can help you with today?
That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, Anna, thank you.
Thanks so much, Anna. All right, next we have a caller, Teresa from Missouri. Teresa, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi, Joe. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so my husband and I are trying to reconcile. We've been married since 96, and before we were together 6 years before that. He had an affair, obviously, and I found out recently that it only ended because she broke it off. So I'm struggling with that because I know that's the only reason he came back. We are thinking about coming to the workshop. So is that a recommendation for couples in reconciliation?
Absolutely.
Or, okay. So how do I get those feelings out of my head that I know had she not broke it off?
Well, okay. Let me help. Let me maybe
wouldn't
help
be here
you.
trying with me.
All right. Maybe I can help you frame that a little differently.
Okay.
Okay. If he was if he were in an emotional connection with her, the thing we call limerence, it was going to end somehow, some way. And typically, the person that goes into it the fastest is the one that comes out first. And so if your husband had gone in faster, he would have been the one to come out first. The fact that she came out first probably means that she went in faster. Now, understand that you're thinking, oh, wow, but I wish that he was the one that broke it off because that would make me feel better. I'm telling you, if things had just been a little different, he would have been the one to do that. The good news here is that it is broken off. Now, you must understand that most people coming out of a limerent relationship do not go back to their spouse. At least not initially, because the things they have to go through mentally to kind of justify that limerent relationship often has to do with the vilification of the spouse, thinking bad things about the spouse, saying bad things about the spouse. And so most of the time it takes a while before they ever come back to the spouse. The fact that he came back to you that quickly tells me that there's some still pretty strong stuff in there that's positive about you. Otherwise he would not have. He would have done something else. I'm telling you that from having worked with thousands and thousands of couples. And so the frame I'm trying to help you with this frame is that while I understand what you're feeling, from our perspective, we look at that and go, There's got to be some pretty powerful stuff going on here that he came back to you, unless you know of something that makes that incorrect.
Well, I originally thought, and I was led to believe that because we had no intimacy, that he started talking online, which was all him, and then it led to an emotional connection, which led to physical. But what it was is he found someone online that he knew from previous, and immediately it was set up for sexual contact. It was not like emotional at first. It was just immediate sexual. And then while we were still in the relationship, and then he started vilifying, everything I did was wrong. It was emotional abuse towards me. So basically it started in September 2017, went immediately to sex in October of 2017, or contact, and then for sure in December, physical, more physical. And then I didn't know all this, and I was told wrong about the time frames and everything when I started working on reconciliation. I didn't know, and I don't know how to feel about it being just sex. And then he fell in love with her, and he wanted to keep it going, but she didn't. And she is in her fourth marriage, and all of this. And he knew this. He knew what kind of person he was getting into.
I understand.
This with.
I understand that you're very upset. I understand that you feel that you were rejected for somebody else. I mean, I understand all that. But here's the real question.
Yes.
Do you want to reconcile?
I did, but since I found out all this other stuff, I'm not sure, because I guess I don't understand meeting somebody for sex. I don't get it.
Okay.
And I don't
I understand that, and I get that. It's awfully hard to understand the motivations of another person because we have enough trouble trying to understand our own motivations. We really do. I'm sure there are times in life when you've done things, and if I were sitting there and say, why did you do that? Your honest answer would be, I don't know. We have enough trouble understanding our own motivations, so it's very difficult to understand the motivations of another. Did he do a very bad thing? Yeah, he did. Did he hurt you? Without a doubt. Did he lie to you? Well, almost everybody that does this stuff lies. I'm not justifying the lying. I'm just saying that that's pretty common for this situation. And if you decide, okay, he wants to reconcile, he wants to come back to me, but because my feelings are very hurt, which they are, then I don't want to do that, then you have the right to make that decision. But we would suggest as you make that decision, you think in terms of how are you going to feel about that in 10 days? How are you going to feel about that in 10 months? How are you going to feel about that in 10 years? Now, if the man truly is, even if he lied to you to begin with, which is terrible, but we kind of expect it, even if he lied to you to begin with about time frames and things like that, is he a good man at heart who did a bad thing, or is he a bad man that did a bad thing?
I think so, and we were always in the same house. Nobody has ever left the house or anything like that. We've always been in the same house, the same bed.
Okay, so you think he's a good man that did a bad thing?
All this.
Is that what you're saying? He's a good man that did a bad thing? Or is he a bad man that did a bad thing?
I think so, but the trust is just, I don't know.
I understand about the trust. I'm asking, in your perception, is this man at heart, is he a good man?
I believe so.
Okay. Then you get to make the decision. You actually are the one that gets to make the decision. Okay, can we rescue this after all the crappy stuff he did and how much he hurt me? Because it's really your choice. You can say, nope, you hurt me, I don't want you. You can throw him out. But if he's a good man that did a bad thing, he may well be worth rescuing. Now, you're the one who makes that decision, not us. You mentioned potentially coming to the workshop. I would suggest that you do.
We're actually thinking about January if we can get in. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because in that, first of all, he's going to get a lot more insight into himself if you come about why he did what he did. But you're also going to get more insight. Now, the things we do online and et cetera, we can only go to a certain degree. Whereas when you've got people in a room for 3 days, you can get into the depth of things that we can't do here. And here's the least good it would do for you is at the end of the 3 days, you can go, I'm comfortable with my decision, whatever that decision is. The most good it can do for you is that all of a sudden he learns, you learn, you understand some things and you go, we can make a very different future. one that was much better even than what we had in the past, not because of what happened, but because of what he learned about himself and I learned about myself, and we learned about our relationship because of what happened. And so we have many, many people that do. There's actually Petra, one of our coaches, is sitting here in the room with us, and I don't know if we have any videos from Petra online or not, but Petra's one of our coaches, and she had to make that very same decision at one point. And I'm not going to give you any more details than that. I won't mention her last name or her husband's last name.
I know a little bit about that.
Okay. And so...
I followed her a little bit online.
Oh, you followed Petra. Okay. Well, she's pretty sharp. She's pretty sharp. So it really boils down to your decision. But if you're having this kind of vacillation, I do recommend you come to the workshop, because I think in those 3 days we can really help you and him get a lot of insight. And at least then, whatever decision you make, and of course, we're pro-marriage, so we hope you decide to work it out. But whatever decision you make, at least then you can walk away with the knowledge and comfort of this is the right decision for me, even if it is, and we hope, of course it is, that you stay together and you make a great future for each other. But what you're feeling, you have every right to feel. Every right to feel. And I don't blame you. I'd be hurt and upset and mad and everything else about this stuff. But what I'm hearing...
And so you recommend no space, no distance. I mean, keep still in the same house and just try to deal with each other?
Sure. Because here's what happens when you separate. When a couple separates, then things automatically get a little easier because you don't have any of the tension anymore. And it becomes actually more difficult if you decide to put it back together. It becomes more difficult to do because there's some relief by separation. So I'm not saying that it's impossible to put it back together if you separate. Some people do. But the only time we ever recommend separation is if somebody is in danger. If you're in physical danger, emotional danger, spiritual danger, then get safe. But if you're not in any danger, it's aggravating, it's tense, but you're not in any danger, you actually have a better shot of finding the best solution for you if you're still together. But it's your choice, always your choice.
Okay. All right. Thank you for everything you do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa.